I'm speaking a lot about myself, um, and I say this to people that I'm around on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, in the sense that they'll call me, talk to me, we'll have conversation. But I speak about myself because I'm the only one that I really know. I mean, truly know. I know me. I was talking to a brother yesterday, asking him for some help, and um, to kind of move my business ministry forward. And and I doubt if he'll listen to this. I don't think he listens to these videos, um, but I asked him for some help, and just in a very very transparent way, kind of debasing myself a little bit, and when I and the feedback I got was absolutely nothing. He didn't laugh. I think he kind of took me seriously, and forget the "and" part. So when he didn't laugh, I realized at that point he didn't get it. I love celebrating other people. Let me demonstrate what I mean by that. I do the best I can to take the lowest position possible when I'm engaging with anyone. I have just found that it makes people feel more comfortable in dealing with you, with another individual, especially when it comes down to your talent. And I find it better when other people celebrate you because they see what they see instead of you celebrating yourself. Now, there are a select few, and I think about Floyd Mayweather, Muhammad Ali, they're very good at celebrating themselves. In the sense that, it's part of their promotion, part of what they do. And they have done very, very well as far as legacy go in celebrating themselves. I just take a different view. I'm not Floyd Money Mayweather. And for you who are listening to this in other years, he is a famous boxer in 2023, recently retired, one of the best. And Muhammad Ali was an activist, boxer, community leader, just an all-around shining star in our generations throughout the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, 2000s. And again, this is for my grandkids and those who consider me an apostle or a mentor or whatever in the great country of Kenya. And whoever else is listening to this, God bless you. But celebrating others is very, very important. And I believe taking the low position in yourself is very, very important. In other words, not hyping yourself. Now, if somebody else hypes you, that's great. If somebody else gives you something, receive it. Because they're giving you their impression of you. And I think that's wonderful. There should be some hype of you by other people, but for the most part, I don't think that we should be hyping ourselves. The reason why I say that is because when you get around people who understand these principles that I'm sharing with you, who can pay more attention to the internal, the inward, like we said on the last video, Leviticus chapter 24, blasphemy. When people can spend more time paying attention to the inward than the outward, then not only you, but they become willing to be a part of the process of moving the kingdom forward, looking beyond your external. that's when people will celebrate you. That's when you will celebrate other people, when you're not paying so much attention to the external of man, the surface, and you're paying attention to the heart of man, and you're looking at them in a way that God sees them. In the previous video, I think I touched on this. In the previous video, Leviticus 24, when we were talking about the young man, the son of Shalomith, who was the daughter of an Egyptian, so it was the man's, or well, I call him a young man, but he was a man. The man's grandfather and Debris, who she was also, so she was Israelitess, and because she was related to Debris of the tribe of Dan. Why that's significant is because she came from two cultures, and her son blasphemed God, and not only blasphemed God, cursed the name of the Lord, or cursed the Lord. When you curse the Lord, it means that you have a heart that does not believe you hold in light esteem the boss, the person that's leading you. That's the Lord. So someone that curses the Lord holds them in light esteem, therefore creating a chasm, however you say that word. In other words, they're not interested in the success of that person. They're not interested in the success of that person's leadership. So paying attention to the inward man of the person that you're dealing with on an external basis, you gotta go a little bit further than not liking their personality. Or you become the surface person. You got to go a little bit further than not liking their history, or you become the surface person. You got to go into their inward parts to find out who they're serving, because all of us are missing the mark. All of us have this lightly esteemed sin that we're dealing with. But we have to bear our sin. In Leviticus chapter 24, just kind of recapping a little bit, in verse 15, he was called, I think it was verse 15, 20, I can look here. Why not just look here? And thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, whosoever curse or lightly esteem God shall bear his sins. So looking in the inward parts and having the inward conversation to find out who is lightly esteeming God is the only way you can figure it out, by having conversations. It's not a matter of just drawing your own conclusion. Because the people that we want to esteem are those who do not lightly esteem God, thereby celebrating them. In Leviticus chapter 25, this is a conversation about when you reach a point of success. This is all about putting in the work for a period of time, coming to a particular age. It's about the Sabbath and the Jubilee, but I want you to hear the principles about it. Because there's a lot of religious conversation about what the Sabbaths are and what the Jubilee is. Spoken in archaic language. Like I was telling you about my brother, who believe that these things are only for the Jewish people. And that's not true. It's for all of us, because these are the ways of God. It's his kingdom coming, his will being done on earth as it is in heaven. This is the daily bread. Understanding how to operate the Sabbaths, times of celebration and rest, forced loss. I hope you heard that. Forced loss. When you choose not to work and prosper. Remember back in the day when God told them to pick up a certain amount of manna, and they decided they wanted to save a certain amount of manna, and the manna spoiled on them? Everything is good in its season. So celebrating the seasons are very, very important. Leviticus chapter 25, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when you come into the land, so this is for an appointed time in the future, when you come into the land, you know, there's so much I want to say there, because he was at the Mount Sinai, which tells you something if you're paying attention. When you come into the land, which I give you, so you didn't even really work for it, he gave it to us, the success, that is. Because again, we're not talking about Canaan right now. We're talking about, this is traveling from Egypt to Canaan, but this is a roadmap for how to handle the success that is coming into your life. Because it's coming. If you're listening to this and you're paying attention to these principles, it's for the purpose of getting you from a dry place to a place that flows with milk and honey. I said years ago on Facebook that I was taking people on a journey. Now, whether the people believe me or not is all part of the process. All I know is I believe me. And I can tell you, people are coming and going in my life. But I made a statement that I was leaving employment. And I believe when I made this statement, it was somewhere around the time of 2016. I have to go back into the video archives or something like that. But it was about 8 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that. Maybe it was 2017. But we're going on a journey. And that journey is from Genesis to Revelation, although Genesis is not the oldest book, Job is, as we believe it is. All written by Moses in different times as well. But the conversation is about how to leave Egypt, which was a place of blessing, start over, go through a desert experience, and land in the land of promise. That's what Moses is talking about here. That's the reason why he says, when God is saying to him, when ye come into the land which I give you. Now, we're talking about physical land today, which is Canaan. That's what we're talking about when we're reading this. But in your life, it could be something completely different. You may already have your land or place that, whatever, but God is taking you from one place to another. These are the principles of getting there, because it's true for all of us. Then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. The land, the physical, tangible blessing or object, space, noun, husband, wife, whatever it is, God is saying one of the first things you need to do is keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. Verse 3, 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard. So that's plant and trim. In the fruit thereof, but in the 7th shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land, a Sabbath for the Lord. Thou shalt neither sow thy field nor prune thy vineyard. So I know I'm going to throw this out there, thinking that some people would ask this question: is he saying that I can't work for a whole year? Excuse me. Is he saying don't work for a year? What he's saying is, and when you're a Sabbath, it says, he's saying, and I'm going to be a little bit ghetto with this. He's saying the 7th year, take a loss, relax, enjoy, celebrate, laugh. It's not practical to say shut your business down and close the doors and come back in a year. That's not practical, and that's not what's being said. But he's saying rest your land. You know, and so I know you don't get why I'm laughing. Some of you do. Some of you get it. The thing that produces for you is the ground and the land, right? But if you overwork the ground, you take the nutrients out of the grounds and your production is bad anyway. So rest it. Give it a time to catch up. Relax. He goes even further, and he talks about. I'm not going to read it because I'm getting close to my time. He goes even further and considers 7 years of Jubilee. Strike that. 7 years of Sabbaths. Jubilee, which is 49 years. And on the 50th year, same process, and they call that Jubilee. Or he calls it Jubilee, not they. God calls it Jubilee. This is the real process. So like it around age 50, if you will. Or, you know, 50 is a significant time. What's interesting is at 50 you come into yourself. And somebody just popped up in my head, and and I just thought about this. I'm not targeting you, and I think it's important to understand, if you're listening to this and you know who you are, this is not targeting you. It might be a word for you, but it's I didn't say that with you in mind. It's where I am in my study. You know, the Jubilee, 49 years, 50. A time of celebration. I do want to read part of that because we have time, so that you can see it, that it comes from the Word, not from me, Paul, the flesh guy that you're looking at. What a fun time! What a fun time! Verse 8. This is Leviticus 25, verse 8. And he says, and thou shalt number 7 Sabbaths of years unto thee 7 times 7 years, and the space of 7 Sabbaths of years shall be unto thee 49 years. Right? So you understand that. So you have all the Sabbaths within the 7 years. That, you know, so the rules still apply. What rules? The rules of taking a break, resting your land. how about this? Enjoying the yield in the seventh year. So it's not like the land isn't still producing. It just means you're enjoying the yield and you're cutting the corners. You're giving to the poor, right? To the stranger. Some people cut their corners larger than others. But there are rules for cutting the corners as well. So you're still giving, you're still producing. You're just enjoying that which you're producing. Verse 9 says, Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound. When I was growing up and I heard these terms, I thought they were just these incredible. It's almost like when you're a kid and you go back to the place that you thought was so big. Like I went back to see my high school some years ago, and I realized my high school was really, it was big, but it wasn't as big as I thought it was when I was a kid. So it's so right now when I read the Word of God, when I first started reading, I thought these things were so big. Like, how could that possible? How could you pull something like that off? But the more and more that you get into the Word of God, and the older and older you get, you realize this is not that big. He's just simply saying, cause the trumpets of Jubilee to sound. Have more parties. On the 10th of the 7th month, in the Day of Atonement. We talked about that previously, right? Have a party. Shall you make the trumpet sound throughout all your land? Relax. Now, I know you want to make it religious. But what God is saying here is that in one aspect, he's saying a lot. But I'm not on those tracks. I'm on this track right here. What God is saying here, come together on the Day of Atonement in the year of Jubilee and have a party and enjoy each other and share your exploits with other members of the tribes. Verse 10, he says, And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout the land. And this is the part I like. Unto all the inhabitants thereof it shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family. A jubilee shall, in verse 11, a jubilee shall that 50th year be unto you. Ye shall not sow, neither reap that which grow of itself in it, nor gather in it of that vine unjust. So then, talk about giving to the poor and that sort of thing. Listen, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a scholar. This is my Bible study. I'm only doing what I believe God is telling me to do. I was listening to a pastor whom I respect greatly. I've always liked his ministry because it's understated. He is well known here in this city, and I think he may be well known around the world. I really don't know, but I love his ministry. He's also an investor. He walks his own beaten path, and he was prophesying, and he was reading from a particular book in the Old Testament, and he considered it prophecy. I'm not prophesying. I'm reading from what God has already created. I think the thing that kind of gets me a little bit is we are so far from what God has already created. I'm not prophesying. I don't even think I'm speaking words of wisdom or anything. I believe I'm just speaking from my Bible study to you and sharing with you how far away we are. We don't celebrate each other. We still judge each other. I believe God is saying to us, get back to the basics. we're looking to multiply on our own without multiplying with someone else, because we don't deem other people worthy because of what we see in other people. I just hope that stops in my generation. But I hope my daughter enjoys the fruit of it stopping. My daughter is one of the most caring, giving, loving people I think I know. But I know where she came from. It wasn't always the case. She doesn't look at a person's sin nature. She looks at a person's inward parts. We're all called to look at each other's inward parts. And this is the part I don't think we all understand. When we get around other people that look at our inward parts and we look at other people's inward parts, we all get healed of the external things. We find joy and understanding and love and compassion and respect with others who see us. Instead of performative arts and trying to pretend like we're something we're not. We need a jubilee. We need Sabbath. We need a gathering of the congregation.